Jimmy Boyle writes, "Hey guys, I love watching the show. It's a great break in my day. My question is in regards to actor directors. What makes some actors ripe to take on the director's chair and even star in their own films? People like Clint Eastwood have done well, and more recently Ben Affleck, whereas others such as Jolie haven't quite nailed it. Just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Thanks, and keep up the great work with Phase 3.
Alicia?
It's tough. It's like a bit of magic. It's hard to quantify. I know, say with Clint Eastwood, he considers himself a student of Don Siegel and Sergio Leone. Really studied them and then brought the best of what he saw into his directing style. But he's had hits and misses, so it's hard. Ben Affleck, he did so well with Argo, and I think
no
he's
misses
better.
Yet.
Yeah, I think he's a better director than he is an actor, quite frankly. But I mean, he could really surprise me with what he's coming up next. So it's hard. As a director, you've got to work with your team. You've got to surround yourself with people that you trust, like we've been saying, people that can give you advice, people who have more experience on that side of things. I'm just always amazed when actors turn to be directors and then they also star in the movie. Like I just saw Water Diviner with Russell Crowe. Right. You'd think for your first time directing, you wouldn't want that extra pressure. I don't know how they do it all. So it's hard to say. I don't know what the answer is exactly.
Yeah, that always fascinates me as well when a first-time director that was an actor decides to not just be in the movie but star in the movie. That's a lot of work. It's already a lot of work just to be a director and to be the star in it as well.
I don't know how you can do both at once, how you can fully get into the acting when you're thinking about everything else that's happening.
Exactly. And I think too it's different for different directors or actors to turn directors, because I think it's a lot of his experience in just being on set. You learn a lot seeing how other directors work, and then also just being confidence, having confidence. A lot of things about directing is about having confidence to go with what your vision is. I've actually found it, the transition for actors to become directors is much better than from a different position, like as cinematographers or screenwriters. There's been a few that have been tried to cross over, and it just hasn't worked as well. And I think it's because they're concentrating on a different specific task in the movie, where getting the best acting possible out of a movie is one of the most important things. And I know people will probably hate me for saying this, and people I've worked with in the past, cameramen, cinematographers. I love beautiful cinematography. It's great. I will take better performances over cinematography any day. Like if you have a movie that has mediocre performances and great cinematography, the movie that has better performances and mediocre cinematography will always be better.
Takes you out of the story if you don't believe the acting.
Right. It just will. I mean, I know it's a visual medium, but I think the connection to the audience is always in the acting, in the story. So, Christian, what do you think?
I think a true, Alicia made this point earlier, is that both with Clint Eastwood, being a true student of the game. And you can see that with Affleck. Affleck, by the way, from being involved with the Project Greenlight that he was for very long, and being a student of while working on films, even if his performances were garbage in some of them, you know, when he was having his problems, whatever, he was still paying attention. He was still going to school every time, and you can tell that because, and he, I think, did it right for his first movie with Gone Baby Gone.
Yeah,
that movie. He just put his brother in there and he stayed away from it, and then decided, okay, now that I have a little bit more of this, I can go. I think if you take the cuckoo crown off of Mel Gibson, you have to acknowledge that he was a guy who did it right. Like with Braveheart, that movie for 3 hours, one of my favorite movies of all time. And for a 3-hour movie that has a good pace and he's the star of it, it's tough to do. But again, a guy who, like you said, Dennis, confident, intense, knows what he wants to do, regardless of what you think about Apocalypto and the Passion of the Christ. He was very confident, knowing his material, wanted to do it. I think that it's the aged vets and the guys that have been on. I mean, I haven't seen Ryan Gosling's movie. I know, Alicia, you have too. But he's also a guy that is very intense, works with a lot of directors, different directors, and pays attention by doing that, learning new styles. I think guys like that can cross over well, but the Wally Feaster on the other side, it didn't work so well. I think maybe that's who you were thinking of with...
well, him, and there's been a few others and screenwriters and stuff, because they concentrate more on like a different aspect versus like looking at the whole picture and saying, okay, this is what the movie tonally needs to be and the acting performance I need to get from every scene. Because remember, you're not shooting movies in order, you're shooting them out of order. So you need to know exactly what the scene means towards the overall story. And, you know, sometimes people don't get that.
Well, because an actor, like if you have Ben Affleck or Mel Gibson or Clint Eastwood, who are these actors that have been in some
Robert Redford
and the actors that respect them on set. When the director comes over, who's an actor, and starts giving you advice, you relate to them and go, okay, as opposed to Wally Feaster go, oh, I think I need you to do this. What does this guy know?
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can see those kind of conversations happening, but so it just depends on case by case, I guess.
You made a good point though with Casey Affleck, Ben Affleck getting him. That's his brother, so obviously there's a comfortability factor.
Relationship.
That's a great person to get as your first lead actor in a movie. It's like someone you grew up with.
It was so
and I think
good.
it was great that Ryan didn't cast himself in his first movie, because then he could really try and do his vision. And the movie has not been getting great reviews, but regardless of what you think of it, it's completely his vision. It shows that he has that confidence that you mentioned. I think confidence is the biggest thing.
Yeah, and also with Ben Affleck, I remember there was rumors about him directing Justice League.
Yeah.
Or a standalone.
Yeah, and I just felt like if he's gonna star in it or be in it, I think that would just take away from it.
Although he was great with Argo.
He was great, and the town.
Yeah.
And the town. I actually that you know, we talked about this on Jedi Council yesterday, where John thought with the whole special editions and stuff that George Lucas had something in his contract for the originals to never come out. I think it was in Ben Affleck's contract in order to sign on as Batman that he has to direct, whether it be a standalone Batman, Justice League, whatever it is. But why wouldn't you if you're Warner Brothers? For what he's done so far with Warner Brothers, with winning the Oscar for Argo, why wouldn't you want that guy directing one of your big comic franchises?
Well, I think it works better as the solo film because it's just his character. He knows what the character is going to be about. But Justice League, you know, I know he did the town and Argo, but Justice League is so big. I mean, it's going to be comparable to what the Avengers is, and that's like one of the biggest movies ever. So I just don't see if that being his first foray into big budget.
That's why Joss was so good for that, because he comes from the TV world and he's able to handle so many different characters at once.
Do you think though that it will be his first array because he is on Batman v Superman? Yes, as an actor, but you know that he's giving his input to Zack Snyder, and Zack Snyder's listening or should listen, and he's also meeting these new cast members from the Justice League on that set, whether it be Jason Momoa and Gal Gadot and all these people that they're talking about things now. They're paying attention, whether or not we know if he's going to direct those things or not. Whatever it is, he's got a vision for it, and you'd be silly to not listen to Ben Affleck at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point that possibly could lead into him, but I don't know. I don't know if he wants to.
That's true.